Yeah, so they could do whatever.
We're on.
They will set the ordinance.
You want me to introduce it?
We're on.
I'm okay.
Township of Parsippany-Troy Hills, Township Council meeting, May 6, 2014, meeting called to order by myself at 7 p.m. Please rise for flag salute. Roll call.
Mr. Karifi.
Here.
Mr. DePiero.
Here.
Mr. Paluso.
Here.
Mr. Stanton.
Here.
Mr. Valori.
Here. Others present, Mayor Barberio, Paula Cazarelli, Assistant Business Administrator, John Inglesino, Esquire, Township Attorney, Yancy Wazermis, Township Clerk, and Mr. Kowalczyk, Township CFO. The purpose of this meeting is to discuss and take action on the calendar year 2014 ordinance to exceed the municipal budget appropriations limit and to establish a cap bank per NJSA 40A:4-45.14. Formal action may or may not be taken.
Statement of compliance. Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided in accordance with the requirements of the Open Public Meetings Law by filing the notice in the office of the Township Clerk and by posting the meeting notice on the bulletin board at the municipal building on April 30, 2014, where it has remained posted since that date. A legal notice appeared in a daily record on May 2nd, 2014, and was forwarded by fax to the Star Ledger and Parsippany Life on April 30, 2014.
Ordinances for introduction.
Ordinance 2014:11. Township of Parsippany-Troy Hills, calendar year 2014. Ordinance to exceed the municipal budget appropriation limits and to establish a cap bank NJSA 48:4-45.14. Be it resolved that the above ordinance be introduced, read by title, and passed on first reading at a meeting of the Township Council of the Township of Parsippany-Troy Hills held on May 6th, 2014, and that said ordinance be further considered for second reading and final passage at a meeting to be held on May 20th, 2014, at 7:30 p.m. prevailing time, or as soon thereafter as the matter may be reached at the municipal building in said township, at which time all persons interested shall be given an opportunity to be heard concerning said ordinance. Be it further resolved that the clerk be authorized and directed to advertise said ordinance, with the notice of introduction thereof being published in the official newspaper according to law. Motion to approve the above resolution.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. DePiero, seconded by Mr. Stanton. Roll call.
Mr. DePiero.
Yes.
Mr. Paluso.
No.
Mr. Stanton.
Yes.
Mr. Valori.
No.
Mr. Karifi.
No.
Can somebody tell me why we called this meeting tonight?
This meeting was called because it was going to be brought up for another vote, further discussion.
If
I
the
guess
three of you
people
were
did.
going to vote no like you did last week, you simply could have not called a
Mr.
meeting.
DePiero, I did not know how anybody else was going to vote. So,
I think this is a disgrace.
Well, we're not going to be able to negotiate contracts going forward, so that being said,
I don't want to hear any more speeches from these councilmen talking about saving taxpayer dollars, because you blew it.
Mr. DePiero,
I'm done.
if that's the behavior you want to act up here...
That's
very
the
much-
behavior I'm going to act
Hey,
from
listen,
now on.
We had the opportunity...
You haven't heard the last of this.
That's fine, if you want to act this way for the public. We had the opportunity to review the information, and that was my decision, okay? So if you can't respect my decision, I'm sorry to hear that, sir. Okay? But don't make innuendos or allegations towards myself, and I'm not going to answer you back, okay?
well, let me just say, if I can, Council President, your decision is going to put the township in a bad way. So if that's what you guys intend to do, then so be it.
Yeah, one of the big issues now is as we introduce this budget, we can no longer introduce it as is. Part of the issues are we can no longer use the cap bank, which means when you have health insurance increases that are going up 4% and is considered inside the cap appropriation, and your cap limit is 0.5%, you now have different issues you're going to have to look at along with pension and those items. I just want to put that out.
Okay. Thank you, Joe.
Anything else?
Yeah, I just want to also make 2 comments, Council President. You own it now, since you voted down the cap bank. And also, I directed the township attorney, well, you know what, we'll wait till this is closed.
Well, what did you direct the township attorney?
I'm going to tell you what I done in a moment. But if we're still on this subject, this has to do with another subject. So if we're still on this subject, then I'm not going to continue my statement. When we're off the subject, I will. So are we off the subject, Council President?
Is there any other further questions or things for discussion on this subject?
Okay, I directed the township attorney to look at the property on 19 Littleton Road, the Vigilante property, for possible township use. So I just want to let you guys know that, you know, we're looking into it. It's not nothing that we're going to, we don't know what we're going to do yet. We just need to see if it fits the needs of the township.
All right, great,
Okay?
great. Thank you, Mayor.
Yep.
Okay. Closed session. Excuse me. Entertain a motion to open up public hearing.
Make a motion.
Motion made by Mr. Stanton. Anybody?
This is open to public.
To open
No,
the public.
second the motion.
Seconded by Mr. Valori. Roll call.
Mr. DePiero,
Yes.
Mr. Paluso,
Yes.
Mr. Stanton?
Yes.
Mr. Valori?
Yes.
Mr. Karifi?
Yes. Okay, if anybody would like to get up from the public, you'll be given 5 minutes. State your name, address, sign in, please.
You have to turn the mic on.
You do a little tap on it.
Did you hit the mute button or the
Yeah.
power button?
Now it's on.
Parsippany-Troy, 182 Hawkins Avenue. Oh, since last year, I've been very, very disappointed with this administration, the old administration, and now it's carrying into our new administration. And I'm totally disgusted. You people representing us, all of you, doing such a shitty job. Okay? You all are. I don't know too much about everything, but this cap thing has been going on for years, guys. Give it a little bit more thought. I know there's reasons where you're looking for stuff, you're trying to find out information. You know, this may increase our taxes next year to 4%, whatever. This was damage already done from last year. It's gonna carry, okay? So just use your better judgment, please. If everybody used their better judgment, we'd be out of here. If you'd be allowed to do your jobs and make decisions and make the votes that you're supposed to make, we wouldn't have a problem. If we had a mayor that was more concerned with how the town is working and how things are being done, I'd be more appreciative. I cannot continue as a resident to sit in these pews and watch this go on anymore. The options I see are, one, first problem is Mr. Inglesino. You want him out, the mayor wants him to stay. You are elected officials, he is our elected official. He appoints him, you say yes or no. That's your job. If you say no, that's the job. Okay? The mayor shouldn't keep forcing things on you. The mayor shouldn't be attacking its own council to keep an attorney who's just an attorney, a township attorney, not an elected official. Okay? So we have that choice of Mr. Inglesino just taking the vote and taking no, or Mr. Inglesino just getting up and please resigning. The other thing I can see is that, you know, the way things are going in town, I always think of a possible recall. We have many other options to do things. Residents can start complaining and ask the feds to come in. Do you really want that, all of you? I mean, seriously, this has got to stop. Because I will be the person that does it. Because I am just so tired of listening to all this stupidity. And that is what it is. You are not representing us. You are representing your own agenda. And I get mad when I see that happening. Start worrying about the residents who live in this damn town instead of what's going to keep you afloat, keep you elected. Because this is not going to keep you elected. You swing past it once. Doesn't mean you're going to continue with it. Okay? Now I'm asking you from the bottom of my heart to start doing things the right way, all of you. Stop hiding things from each other. Start being honest. Start being transparent. Because enough is enough. Take it seriously, guys, because you don't know what you are doing to this town. I am tired, and I will continue to write what I see, and I will get it out to the residents. People have now got to be aware of what you guys are doing up here. Protect the residents, not yourselves. If you have made mistakes in the past, let it go. Start fresh.
30 seconds, Pat.
Thank you, Pat.
Can I change the subject? I just thought of something while I was sitting
Name
there.
and address, please.
Jonathan Nelson, 202 Patriots Road. Completely off the subject, but I just thought of it. When the council has closed session meetings, eventually the minutes are going to be open to the public. I don't believe that. I don't know, since Mayor Barbario has been in office, that maybe since Judy Silver retired, any closed session minutes that no longer are privileged haven't been released yet. What's the process? And you guys must have a terrible backlog on that right now. And is that something that's going to be happening sooner rather than later?
Yancy should be the ones that answer that one. Yeah, with your minutes.
Well, no, the council's been receiving the minutes, but there comes a point when closed session minutes become made available to the public, and I don't believe anything's been made available for, I don't know, years.
All right. Council will keep the minutes, and then if it's litigation, if it's settled or whatever, they can be open, you're right.
Yeah, I would think that would be a legal question that we would have.
Well,
to
first there would have to be,
clearance.
first of all, there would have to be requests for closed session minutes through an OPA request. When an OPA request is made for closed session minutes, I would assume at that point the clerk's office would contact my office, and then we would make a decision as to whether or not the minutes are appropriately released to the public or not. There may be portions of the minutes of closed session that are ripe for releasing to the public. There may be other portions of minutes from the same meetings that not be. But without an OPA request, I don't know what's...
You know what, if that's the case, then I misunderstood the process, because I do know that prior administrations, and going back as far back as we've had this type of form of government, that as soon as the attorney deemed that the minutes were no longer deemed privileged, he would just sign off on it with the clerk, and then the clerk would just release the minutes to the library, or now these days online. That's all.
I don't
The
think-
resolution says may, can be.
Yeah. Yeah. I didn't know what the process was. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, listen, if somebody's interested in a particular closed session, they can certainly make an Oprah request. I know that there are a lot of minutes still to go through. We have not, gone through all of the minutes, to determine what should be made available or not. We can certainly do that, but we haven't done that. I think if somebody has a request, though, for a particular set of minutes, obviously, we
No, I
would look at
understand,
it.
But on the other hand, how could anybody possibly know what to request if the minutes were privileged?
I don't know which minutes are ready for our review,
Yeah,
and which are not.
Okay. All right.
Catch 22.
Anyone else? All right, see no one else come forward, make a motion to close the public hearing.
Make a motion.
Motion made by Mr. Stanton, seconded by Mr. Valori. Roll call.
Mr. DePiero,
Yes.
Mr. Paluso,
Yes.
Mr. Stanton,
Yes.
Mr. Valori,
Yes.
Mr. Karifi.
Yes.
Council President Karifi, can I speak just a few moments on the cap bank to
Yes.
explain what's going to happen now? Just to explain the next set of circumstances that are going to occur. At this point now, we're going to have to rework the whole cap. With that being said, I'm going to have to advise the council probably by the end of the day Friday where we're at the cap. There are legal ramifications now that haven't passed it. I now have to compute the cap on 0.5%. I can tell you our appropriations, our contracts that we settled are in excess of 0.5%. So the issue now becomes having to exceed it. Now there's going to be times for really tough decisions that are going to need to be made. And one of the things that I really want to talk about is when you're making these rough decisions, you have to make sure that when you're doing these things, they're not one-timers. You're going to have to make sure that they're sustainable, because by not doing the cap this year, you are now affecting 2 years out your fiscal solvency going forward. If the 0% cap comes into place, you now do not have a cap bank to use next year. You have contracts that are settled. You have health insurance that in all likelihood will go up. Your utility costs will go up. The pension costs have gone up. So now the decisions are going to become, if the cap is truly zero, what are the areas that you're going to have to look at? And I just wanted to put that out.
So Joe, you're assuming that next year there'll be a zero cap. If there's not a zero cap, it's still 2% cap, correct?
Well, it's, of course it does. Luckily, I could project my voice. It's going to still be 2.5% or COLA, whichever is the lesser.
Okay.
So with that being said, if you got COLA at 0.5 again, like this year, you're going to be facing the same issues going forward. So now all we're going to have to do is, now when we're looking at passing this budget, we have to look at a fiscal plan going forward, because we really need to ensure it's not this year's budget we're looking at. What are going to be the future financial impacts on each of the next year's budgets?
And Joe, I appreciate your input, and I'm hoping you realize when we were having our budget hearings for 4 days to almost 2 o'clock in the morning, and there was topics that I was very concerned of that we need to discuss, review, obviously downsize. So those are all the things we'll move forward, and hopefully we do great things for the town. So these are issues that I brought up. I don't want to keep reemphasizing 5 or 6 points that I brought up. So we'll have to work diligently so we don't raise, obviously, taxes on the individuals that live in this town. Because I believe the Board of Ed's already raising the taxes, what, like almost $300 per, or $200 per every 300,000 assessed house?
Yeah, unfortunately, we have not seen their budget. I've got a
Okay.
request for it,
I've been following that in the paper, so the reality is, we really need to sit down and have some, how can I say, some vision on where things should be at. And a lot of that was discussed, and I hate to say it, There was answers to the questions that I asked, and I didn't get the answers on. So we need to sit down, and unfortunately, you won't be here, possibly, the next CFO. Those are the things that we're going to discuss. But I thank you for your input. I respect that.
Well, you got the input, and you were told in those meetings, you didn't make the cuts during the meeting process, and you're going to put the town in a bad way, Councilman Valori, and that's the bottom line.
Mr.
No,
Barbario,
I'm speaking now,
I'm
Councilman
not putting
Valori.
don't.
Yes,
listen.
you're going to. I'm speaking
Mr.
now.
Barbario,
You've
I'm
had
not-
the opportunity to
don't make
speak.
an
I'm gonna-
allegation
No,
towards
Mr.
I'm
Valori,
putting the town in a
you
bad
are putting the
position.
town in a very
You've
difficult
put the town in a
situation.
bad position.
You put
All
the
right.
town in a bad
You put the
situation.
town
We're
in a
not
bad
passing this
position.
cap tonight.
You put the
Talk
town in a
about
bad
saving
position.
money.
Okay?
Talk about saving money.
Saving money, Joe.
That's all you talk about,
We'll
Mr.
go from
Valori.
point for point
We
of
should
where
talk-
you
All right.
We should
wasted
talk about saving
taxpayers'
money.
Hey, all right.
Okay?
Okay.
Be
You
responsible.
get health benefits you don't even
Be
contribute to.
responsible, Mayor.
I am very responsible, Councilman
You're going to
Valori.
look at yourself again.
You're not being responsible at all.
Joe, you stated to me that we do have a percentage already in the cap, right? This 0.5 was going to be in addition to that, correct?
No, what's going to end up happening is 0.5% truly is what the state feels you can raise your budget by the COLA. So it really amounts to about 250,000,
Okay.
which is pretty much consumed by your pension.
Okay.
And if you factor in your contractual increases, you well surpass that.
Okay, but we have people now, employees in the town that should be contributing to their medical that
Correct.
have not in the past, correct?
No, well, it's going to be the police going forward, but they have contributed at 1.5% of their salary.
Okay.
So part of the issue is going to be if you start at year one, a lot of times that the 1.5% is truly higher. So depending on where they go with the tiers, when they negotiate the contract. So I can just say from a perspective, I do have a concern about where we're heading going forward. And I think there has to be some real serious conversation about where are we going to be in 2014, but more importantly, where is that going to put us in 15 and 16? To me, I look at the most conservative aspect and saying if there's a 0% cap, and I'd rather propose that there is, because you need to know what the impacts are going to be next year of what a 0 would be, what the impacts are going to be in 16. Because truly, when you're doing a budget, the state basically says best practice is doing a 5-year approach to the budget. I will tell you from a plan that I've looked at, and I can say this again, and this is with all due respect, and you know I've been a straight shooter. It really puts a curb in what the plan that I've seen going forward. And I just need to stress that once again. That's my concern. The council has the right to do what they believe in, and I don't disagree, and I will work with you guys to try to get the plan into place, but I can tell you I have a real concern of where it's going to put us going forward.
Well, Joe, what I'm going to do is we got to sit down. We got to decide by the May 13th meeting because they want to, they want to open up the budget again, and we're going to have to cut with services, and not only just services alone. We got a Memorial Day parade coming. I don't have a budget yet. We have the 4th of July, all those things, and we need to do our due diligence, and that's something we're going to have to work on right away. We might have to eliminate them, so based on just this vote alone, not having a approved budget. So you and I have to make recommendations. We'll make them,
Absolutely.
and that's really all you can do. And whatever services have to suffer, they will have to suffer because we have to meet the state obligations. And that's really what it's going to come down to.
Mayor, did we cut any services this year?
No, not yet. We haven't. We
And
might
you
have
ca-
to.
And you came in with a 0 budget last year, correct?
Yeah, but I also used sewer surplus last year as well. And out of the recommendation of Mr. Kowalczyk, I didn't use it this year, and he can explain to you why. Very similar to along the way he's been explaining to you the whole budget the whole time.
What my recommendation was not to use the level of sewer surplus we used in previous years. There's talks about caps on your utilities. So the more you erode your sewer surplus fund balance, you're going to have those problems then coming up in your utilities. So one of the issues that I truly see is,
Plus the COLA was not a .5.
right, last year the COLA was 2. So when you're looking at these items, and the other point I want to bring across is even though they say the COLA is 0.5, you have a 2% cap. So when you talk about the inequities of the two caps, haven't really talked about them. And the intersections, I will, if you guys will give me a few moments. The inequities of the two caps, you can raise your taxes 2%. They tell you can raise your appropriations 0.5%. Something's missing. One of the items I want to talk about is health insurance. Under the appropriation cap where it's 0.5, it's anything above 4% that's outside the cap. On the 2% levy cap, it's anything above 2%. Under the levy cap, your pension appropriations are outside the cap. Under your appropriations cap, they are considered inside the cap. So when we're taking a look at this budget and we're going to be talking about items, you need to understand where the intersections are. And unfortunately, when they did this cap law, not all of them were looked at. If finance people were involved, I would probably be saying it's 2% and 2% and pension. So when we're talking about this, there are going to be items that we're now going to have to make some really tough decisions. I know it's something you guys have said you're prepared to do. I just have to say you guys are going to have to be all hands on deck on this one.
Exactly. Thank you, Joe.
I also would like to add, Mr. Gavalchek, those tough decisions come to salary increases that were part of contractual obligations. It comes to municipal services, does it not? Or
Well, you're going to still have to do your contractual increases because they're done. What is going to start being looked at is some of the services. Are we going to have to take a look at furloughs? When you're looking at some of these items, in order to effectuate a plan going forward, these are some of the items that are going to have to be starting to take a look at.
How about the contract, the PBA and SOA
Well,
contract?
currently we're in negotiations.
You're in negotiations.
So with this point in time, I would have to say to you, Mayor, a 0.5% increase is really what you can give them this year.
Okay.
So, and that's the only point I'm trying to bring forward. And right now, with the uncertainties and everything, we have to take a look at where we're at.
Well, they
So-
cost-
At the same,
they
the same
questioned me on
time,
that.
negotiating with the police, you're not gonna get the steps in medical because there's no contract. You're gonna stick at the 1.5
No.
forever.
Absolutely, right
No
now.
contract.
Correct. And that's going to be the issue, is some of those items.
So, Joe, let me ask you a question. How is the contribution not taking effect? So if the contract's not signed for 4 years, these officers don't have to pay for 4 more years?
Now they're going to be paying 1.5% of their salary.
Okay.
So what's going to end up happening if this contract doesn't settle for 4 years? We're then going to have to go backwards and do retros and figure out what the costs are.
But you're assuming that this contract won't go to arbitration, though?
Well, even if it goes to arbitration, right now there is no interest arb law.
What was that?
There is no interest arb law at this point. It's sunset. So right now, if this contract goes to interest arbitration, I can't tell you what the answer is going to be.
And excuse me, in regards to the contracts, we didn't even get an opportunity to review or approve any contracts,
Right,
correct?
correct.
So we have to make tough decisions on approving contracts.
Absolutely, but
Okay,
you
so-
have your blue collars that are in
But my
place.
point is, you're bringing up good points, but tell all the information that pertains to that point.
Well-
We still have the legal authority to review the contracts.
Absolutely.
And these are things that I brought up in the past during the budget, that I brought up about contracts, shared services, being more innovative, and that's what we'll have to do. That's why we got elected to be here.
Okay.
Absolutely, but
Good luck.
can I say one point? Part of the issue that I see, you're already in May, so whatever changes we're going to have to effectuate, we're going to have to effectuate harder going forward, because you already have the known numbers that you have for the first 5 months.
Joe, and I know you're saying that we're into May. There's things that I've been asking for since January. RFQs on the insurance company that does work for our town. Do we get that information? Billing from the many different law firms, did we get that information? Okay? Talking about, re-engineering departments to be more efficient. Things that I brought up on record for the budget. So tell me the sky is falling now because it is this cap. We
Well,
are responsible individuals, we got elected, all of us, and we'll have to sit down and do what's best for the town.
And I
You have
don't-
the school board already raising taxes, I'm not gonna be part of raising taxes.
Right.
So if we have to make some tough decisions, if we're heavy staffed in certain areas where folks are doing the same work, if there's maybe software we don't need to buy right now, we need to obviously make the right appropriate cuts. So to sit up here and obviously this guilt being thrown at us, I made my decision based on how I felt reviewing the budget, okay? So these are the decisions that you get paid very well to do. That's what we'll have to go through this budget with you.
I have no
Mayor,
issues with that.
administration.
And understand, Councilman Valori, I'm not trying to do a guilt trip. I am trying to state, and understand, I'm stating by the numbers what I see and what we're going to need to look at.
Okay.
Because your biggest cost in your budget truly are personnel. So if you're going to look to effectuate the change, that's the area you're going to have to look at. And that's the only reason I'm stating that.
And I brought up
is-
many points in regards to how things could be re-engineered.
And I
That's
don't-
why we need to
Yeah.
roll up our sleeves and start getting down to obviously realizing I'm not going to be part of raising taxes to these folks that are still not in their houses, getting evicted, don't have jobs. The reality is, let's work as a team and do what's right for the town. Okay, I'm not going to be part of raising taxes. The Board of Ed is, I'm not going to be part of it for this council. That was the platform that I ran, I'm going to stick to that.
That's understood.
Well, you're part of the taxes, Councilman Valori, so you know. You get a pension from the town, which is, as you said, gets raised. You're part of those taxes. You get benefits from
And
the
you notice,
town.
Mayor, I paid into that, so.
And that's fine,
No.
but we still gotta pay towards it, Councilman.
Okay.
And your health benefits.
Mayor, don't
Will
you
you
get a-
contribute, 35% towards your
I'm
health
glad you just brought
benefits?
up this point.
I do.
Okay, I'm glad you brought this point. You get medical, family medical.
I do, and I
okay?
pay towards it.
Okay, great. You get a car to take home.
Okay, I do.
And I know you always bring up the town of of Wayne that has the same population of us. Did you realize that their mayor is part-time, that only makes $17,000
Well,
a year?
we don't do that here,
doesn't even
Councilman.
obviously take home a
Councilman,
car?
we don't do that here,
So,
but-
needless to say.
My point is this,
Mayor,
Councilman. Would you like to
we're
pay
gonna
towards
make
your health
some
benefits?
decisions.
Would you like to pay towards your health
We're
benefits?
gonna make some
Of
decisions
course you don't wanna pay
of
towards
what
it.
we need to do, Mayor.
Of course, you don't want
Now.
to pay towards them, Councilman.
Okay, Mayor, this is the only one
All right,
liner that you
okay.
have.
I
All right.
didn't think so. I didn't think so, that's all.
I'd just like to comment on something here. I pay for my own medical benefits. I've worked all my life, 28 years, been in one industry. I don't have a pension. I have a pension, it's my 401k plan that I put money into. I pay for my own medical, my own family, costs me a lot of money. I pay for my own car, my own gas. I refused a 2% increase during the budget process up here as well. I've also pledged to give the salary of the council, my personal salary, back to the community in donations that I see fit. I'm up here as a community leader and a volunteer. When you look at a tough economy like this, you have to tighten your belts. Whether it's at home, whether it's in business, and government. So although sometimes this cap is indicate that's a not direct correlation to increase of taxes, anything that's a contributing factor, anything that increases the budget, I'm not in favor for it. I refuse to increase taxes on senior citizens that are being taxed out of their homes, people that don't have jobs that can't afford to pay their bills. I will not stand up here and approve anything that's going to increase our taxes. I understand the school board has increased their tax base for us, according to the newspapers. I don't know what the exact percentage is yet. I have not seen the budget. But I refuse to increase taxes. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Councilman Blumenthal.
I would just like to add to that as well. In the past few weeks, I've gone around and I've talked to many residents in this town, and that's their number one concern is taxes. And they know that the budget is being done right now. Again, they read that article about the Board of Ed, and taxes are going to be going up because of the schools, and that is a big portion of our taxes. But, Mayor, when you say that, oh, Council President, you're going to own it, well, you know what? You came in with a 0% budget increase last year in an election year. So why not do it again this year? And we
Well,
won't
I
have to
will-
worry about
I
this.
will do that if I was to use sewer surplus. Absolutely. Would you like to join me in using that surplus?
We'll look at the budget, and we'll
When
go
you
over
find out what you're
everything.
going to have to cut, Councilman, you will understand a little bit better, so.
Okay, we will.
And that's what
We
we'll
will,
discuss.
and this is where we need to work together to do this. But I do
Councilman,
not want to be.
I have met with
hold on,
you.
I'm not done. I do not want to be, and I will not be the one to go to these residents in town and say your taxes are going up again. that is what I was elected to do, is to try, I'm working for the people. I went out in the last few weeks and I spoke to residents all over the place.
Right.
I went to the Little League ceremony, I've been to other events, and I've spoken to a lot of residents, and all they keep saying is taxes, taxes, taxes. That's what they don't want raised. And I'm here to work for the people, and I'm listening to the people, and that's what I'm doing.
Okay, then can I respond to you?
Go ahead.
You're not the only one that goes around town to town to each individual. I go to the community center, and one thing they do love, the residents, are the services. So when you want to cut the budget, you're going to have to, you want to get to where you need to get, you're going to have to make some sustainable cuts. That's a fact. And you're going to be cutting some services. That's another fact. So in regards to you saying, you're not the only one that goes around. Not everybody wants the taxes raised. I will tell you that. You're absolutely correct. But they don't want the services taken away. They don't want once-a-week garbage. They don't want the garbage not to be picked up. They're not going to want the community center to be decreased or all that. They don't want those types of things. So we're going to have to come to the table. Pat Pataccia hit it on the head. Miss Pataccia, excuse me. We're going to have to come to the table because the residents are going to suffer one way or the other. Now, I've met with you, Council President, to form a finance committee, and and then you bring forward an ordinance, which you guys didn't even know what the ordinance was because you were eliminating my.
Well, don't say you
No,
guys.
I'm just council. It's my chance. So I have no problem forming that committee to meet, but that was a trade-off, the committee or this ordinance. When we agreed on the committee, Mr. Peluso, you said in that meeting that you wouldn't have the time. So I asked you, Council President, to chair that committee. Meet with me. Because we need to do what's right for our residents. This is just totally out of control. I will form that committee with you, but we need to do it fast. And we need to do what's right for our residents. Every single resident. So
I would suggest,
If you wanna do
to
that
you that
with me-
we try to meet before Tuesday's meeting.
well, I will meet with you. I'm free any day of the week. I will make myself available to you.
Okay.
Because we cannot sustain, when you don't pass this cap, and we need to discuss that, you and I. And we can discuss it, Paul. I've seen us in
Okay.
those meetings.
Sure.
So let's just do it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anything else? Anybody? Okay.
Yeah, we have to go to closed session.
Okay, closed session. Where it says, going into closed session for personnel matters. Okay, we're going to be going into closed session for personnel matters. Closed session resolution, whereas the Open Publics Meeting Act, PL 1975, Chapter 231, permits the exclusion of the public from a meeting in certain circumstances, and whereas the Township Council is of the opinion that such circumstances presently exist, and whereas the Township Council wishes to discuss attorney-client privilege, and whereas minutes will be kept, and once the matter involving the confidentiality of the above no longer requires confidentiality, the minutes can be made public. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Township Council of the Township of Parsippany-Troy Hills that the public be excluded from this meeting. Motion to adjourn into closed session by myself, seconded by Mr. Stanton. Roll call.
Mr. DePiero,
Yes.
Mr. Peluso,
Yes.
Mr. Stanton?
Yes.
Mr. Valori?
Yes.
Mr. Karifi?
Yes.
You want lunch with that?
Entertain a motion to reconvene.
Make a motion?
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Stanton, seconded by Mr. Peluso. Roll call.
Mr. DePiero,
Yes.
Mr. Peluso,
Yes.
Mr. Stanton?
Yes.
Mr. Karifi?
Yes. Entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Make a motion.
Motion made by Mr. Stanton,
Second.
seconded by Mr. Peluso. Roll call.
Mr. DePiero,
Yes.
Mr. Peluso,
Yes.
Mr. Stanton?
Yes.
Mr. Karifi?
Yes.
Do you think they know we're back?
Good night.
Okay.